I've been looking around a while. You got something for me? Oh, I got a brand new pair of roller skates. You got a brand new key. I ride my bike, I roller skate, don't drive.
Alright guys, so let's fit up the head. On the head, the head bolts, if you've taken yours off or if you're getting new ones, what you're going to notice is there are two different types. So two of them are ground flat. I'm thinking you might not be able to see that, I'm not too sure. I'll bring it up close for you. So they're ground flat, and the other ones have a dome head and they're a little taller. So what happens in that case is on your head, the two flat ones that are a little thinner, they go. One's for your exhaust and the other one goes where your intake is. So that provides clearance for your intake tube and for your muffler. No washers go under there. I'm not really sure how you could probably put very thin washer under there, I guess, if you wanted to, but probably don't need to. You could theoretically just use washers here on the other sides, and so just under the larger button cap ones. But you know, there's really not enough material underneath the caps to provide for that. So anyway, they go like that. What else to talk to you about on that? Let's see here. The crush gasket. So here you are. Here's a new one. Here's an old one. Let's see if you can see that. Make that out. So quite a bit thinner. Factory repair manual allows you to reuse this if you like. What they say to do is to coat it in cup grease, which would be, you know, grease from a grease cup, so very thick weight grease. Coat it and then crush it down. I guess that's supposed to give you a good seal. But of course they do say, which what manufacturer wouldn't say because they're selling the stuff, to use a new gasket. And because we have a new gasket, we'll use a new gasket. So also, what I will do for these heads, for the head bolts, is to you know, whatever brand Loctite. This is Loctite brand. Whatever brand anti-seize you want to use, that's totally up to you. If you don't want to use it, don't use it. Doesn't matter to me. But if you ever want to get that motor back or that head back off, especially that bolt that's underneath the exhaust, you better put some anti-seize on there, because you'll fight with that and you'll end up shearing off that bolt, like what happened to this one, and it's not fun. I think it took me in total about 5 hours to finally get that bolt out. But anyway, so there you go. Loctite brand. Shameless plug, I guess. Who knows, maybe they'll send me one more can of anti-seize or something. Alright, so you don't need to get insane with the amount of anti-seize you use on there. You want to make sure you got enough, but you know, don't get crazy with it. You don't need this stuff all over the place. All over your clothes, all over the motor. Just some on the threads, and it'll run itself in. I guess if you really want to go crazy with it, the place to go crazy with it would be underneath that exhaust. Should be right there. This one actually gets a little bracket that I made up for the shroud. Where that bracket went to originally, I have no idea. Somebody might have had that shroud off at some point. It's entirely possible. And then lost the bracket. All right. Tighten these down evenly. Don't do one side, all the way down, and the other side all the way. Just make sure you go all the way around. In the manual, there isn't any specification for the torque value, but I'm going to say just nice and snug. You don't need to put a ratchet and crank this down. Screwdriver like I have here, that'll be sufficient, and just snug them down nicely. You want it to crush down that gasket evenly. Anyway, we'll finish that up and then get back to you in a bit. Alright, so let's set our valve lash. So, again, push rod, rounded end down, flat end at the top. You want your rod at its lowest, the distance is going to be at its lowest travel. Put your cup in there. Here's your adjustment for your height and orientation. There we go. So that value right there is going to be 12 thou. Alright, so that's your rocker arm, valve lash adjusted properly. Sometimes it helps at the same time to hold the valve down a little bit while you're making the adjustment, and then just ease the locker off if you want to raise the stem for the rocker arm, and then take your measurements. But there you go, 12 thou. So what happens is if you're solid to your valve and valve spring, when it's at its lowest, when your push rod's at its lowest, it may not be able to let that valve fully close, and you'll get exhaust leaking back through the valve. So you do need a slight amount, 12 thou is not very much. And if it's too much, it also won't press the valve down far enough. And you'll also hear a lot more valve clatter as well. It'll be quite noisy. So anyway, like I say, there's 12 thou. A little hole up here on top of the rocker. Go ahead and put a little bit of oil in there. You can just kind of force that down to there, and that'll lubricate that rocker on its pivot. There. So there you go. That's your rocker done. Next to be spark plug. Spark plug gap is 20 thou. So there you go. I use an Autolite 386. That is supposedly the equivalent to the stock spark plug. So let's find ourselves a 20 thou feeler gauge. Got a question for you guys. Why are there two 10 thou feeler gauges? One apparently in brass and one in steel. Anybody got the answer for that? I don't. Anyway, let's get back to the 20 thou. You can close that up a little bit. How you do it is your business. I'm just going to press that a little closer. It doesn't take much. That ground strap is fairly flexible. There we go. Perfect clearance. Some people put anti-seize on the spark plug threads. That really, I don't see that as being necessary. There's really no reason that you would ever want to torque your spark plug down that tight where you would need anti-seize for it. So anyway, we'll install that. Next, we'll install the carburetor. I think it's probably a lot easier just to put your springs on ahead of time, otherwise you're trying to fish in behind. You want to make sure they don't bind to each other. And your governor adjust. That's your adjustment there. That spring hooks on the back, a little tab, and then your actual governor linkage rod hooks through the largest hole on the disc, which is right there. You'll probably find it easiest to put your gasket on first and then put your pickup tube on after that, and then lock it down, and then go ahead and install the whole thing. I should tell you guys, back here is your idle adjustment. Where that's going to be for me, I have no clue, but once I get it running, I'll figure it out from there. It's your needle valve. I'll just have that closed for now. And then go ahead and lock that down. So at this point, we'll go ahead and install the intake tube. You have two, depending on what year, what model you have. Your intake tube here, and well, that's your intake tube to the head, and this is your air intake with the choke. So they're both intake. So one intakes, pushes into the cylinder. So it's a bit, I actually said to go ahead and lock that carburetor down, but don't lock it down just yet. Leave it loose because you're going to need a little bit just to get it into the head. In the manual they do say to kind of pry it into there, but you know what, I'm really not much into prying this pop metal and then having it break on me. So just leave it loose, and then it gives you a little bit of leverage there. So it is a kind of a loose fit. You know, what you're probably supposed to do is tighten up this band right here, but I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to do is just use a little bit of plumber's tape just to make that a tighter seal. The seal up top is not, let me just zoom out for you guys here. The seal up top is not terribly tight either. Why that is, I'm not really sure. I think I've seen pretty loose ones. This one isn't too terribly loose, but it's still loose. I think if it becomes an issue and it's sucking a lot of air through there instead of the charged mix, then what I'll do is I'll take some high temp and just skiff it with high temp and then seat it back in, and then that'll give me a nice fit. But so like I say, take a little plumber's tape if you find that that's a little bit too much play there, and go ahead and tighten that up. And then you can do the same with your choke tube. As you can see, there's a bit of play there as well. This one actually goes through here, feeds through, and then it sits down here. And then there's your bracket that locks the two of them together and holds them as one unit. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and we'll catch you in a bit again.